Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and in this video we're going to be covering the basics of Final Fantasy XV's latest expansion, Comrades. It is the multiplayer version of the game with its own separate campaign that has its own relation to the main story itself, and we're going to be going over all of that great stuff. So, a couple of things. One, in case you didn't know this came out, it is part of the Season Pass, which is $25. That also includes Episode Prompto, Episode Gladio, and the soon-to-be-released Episode Ignis. You can also purchase it standalone on top of the base game for just 20 bucks, but you might as well, if you have the base game and you want to get this, you might as well spend the extra 5 bucks and get the Season Pass. This is US dollars, of course. Another thing is, going to be slight spoilers, so if you don't want to be spoiled on anything here, you probably shouldn't be clicking on it. You should probably turn it off right now. So what is going on? Why do we have a multiplayer here, and who the heck is this guy in front of you? Well, the multiplayer takes place 6 months after the events of Chapter 13. Noctis is currently taking a crystal nap, and we, members of the Kingsglaive, are tasked with making sure that there is a world left for him when he comes out later. We have our powers back. Ever since Luna called Leviathan and Leviathan forged a pact with Noctis, the old kings and their sigils have gained their magic back, and we as members of the Kingsglaive can use those sigils to draw on the powers, even though we're not drawing them directly from the king like they were back in the movie itself. We are located in the last bastion of humanity of Leshtalem, and our goal is to restore power to the other cities in the other parts of the world to make sure that there's something for Noctis to actually fight for when he gets back. There's tons of familiar characters here. Sometimes Cindy's hanging out here, Gladio's hanging out over there right now, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. I'd like to say that this video is being recorded in the New Game Plus mode. Now, a lot of people didn't know this had a New Game Plus, and I didn't either. Let me just say that the New Game Plus here is extremely underwhelming. That is the first negative thing I want to talk about. New Game Plus basically resets the progress of how much power you've given to the world, and it undoes some of your story-related permanent decisions. So if you made a mistake the first time through and you're like, oh man, I wish I had this NPC instead of that NPC, you can use the New Game Plus to go through the game again and do it the way you want to do it, but there's no increased difficulty. There doesn't appear to be any unique items as of version 1.0.0. We know they will be updating this, and in fact there are already teasers for some of the free updates that are going to be coming to the multiplayer expansion as we go through the town itself. So I'm going to say that, like I said, familiar characters. The first one we're going to see on the right over here is Viv. He was the picture guy, and he's basically your prompto for this expansion, except that he doesn't follow you around and actually take the pictures.
Town, kid. Thanks to those photos.
That line you're going to get sick of. He says it anytime you walk within like 40 feet of him. Like, you could be over there accepting a mission, and he is going to tell you that you're the talk of the town thanks to his photos. It takes a really long time to load the photos, so I'm not going to click it. But basically, there's a phantom photographer taking pictures of you in battle, and then you can come here to see what pictures that photographer has taken. There's also some other types of pictures that can be taken there as well. And then any ones that you save, you can look at them here, put them on a frame, share them on social media. The same functionality that Prompto had, basically. Going over here to the left is a basic weapons shop. You can come here and buy and sell materials. Keep in mind, these aren't all the items available in the game. Like I said, this is New Game Plus, so all of my stocks over here in the store are much lower. You have a lot more options here, and you can purchase more than one if you want to go down different build paths, which again, we'll talk about in a little bit. Of course, you can sell items, leftover weapons, materials you found from enemies. You just can't sell things like hairstyles and conversations and attires and stuff like that. So strictly weapons and materials can be sold. Going over here, this is where you'll be using a lot of your weapons and materials. Sid has his very own remodeling shop. Yeah, he's asking me a question right there, so I'm just going to skip through all that. So the reason why it's giving me this is because it's New Game Plus, and I have all my super OP items from New Game, and so it's explaining to me the basic systems, but I'll go out of the way and do that here. So, here, you can look at any one of the different 7 weapon types, whatever you have in your inventory. You can see we have katanas, maces or clubs, polearms, daggers, crossbows, shields, and shurikens. These are the only 7 weapon types you have, but there are quite a few different weapons available in each of them. Now, once you're here, you basically see the stats for the weapon in the bottom right. You can see that it has a level, which you can actually gain levels just by feeding materials into it, which I'll show you in a minute. You also have sometimes passive or active abilities available on these items. You can see that in the case of this one being Bone Crusher. This just makes it so my standard attacks have a chance of reducing enemy attack power, so debuffing the enemy to reduce their physical damage by 10%. Some of them have 1 slot, some of them have 2 slots, some of them unlock as you remodel them, and that's going to be a whole nother video in itself. As for the stats at the bottom right, these all do things that if you're familiar with the main game you should recognize, but we'll go through them real quick. You have HP, hit points. What's it called? The first one, the flexing arm, is attack power, physical attack power. The fist is physical defense. The wand-looking one is your magical attack. The sun-looking one is your magic defense and how much your heals do. Your MP is, well, that should be self-explanatory. You then have fire resistance, ice resistance, lightning resistance, dark resistance, and ballistic resistance, basically projectile resistance. These aren't the only stats in the game, but by the way, if you're ever looking for information on what all the different icons mean, luckily, in the main menu right here where you see gear, items, and info, if you just press triangle, it'll explain every individual stat to you. You can see spirit, base damage from magical attacks, HP recovered from curative spells, light resistance, katana resistance, all these different things that you'll see in all the different menus, so you never have to be curious about what it is you're seeing, or confused about what it is you're seeing. Even the debuffs and stuff are here. So going back to the crafting station, basically you select an item, and then you go through all these materials. And you can add materials to increase stats, to actually evolve the weapons, and basically cater your character to the type of playstyle you want to have. Do you want to be super beefy and you don't want to do any damage, you just want to be able to take any hit for your ally? Pump things into vitality and spirit, so that way you're highly resistant to all forms of damage. You're going up against a boss that only deals ice damage, build something that has ice resistance, or in this case with this item, lightning resistance. On top of that, sometimes adding these items can give spells or abilities to your actual weapons. One of my favorite changes here in Comrades is that spells are no longer their own items. Spells are actually tied to the individual weapons that you equip. So if I were to upgrade an item with this item, the Sky Serpent Talent, it would give that item Thundara. What that means is when that is my primary equipped weapon, it replaces my spell that I'm currently casting, my offensive one, with Thundara. So you never have to choose between magic and weapon. You have both of them all in one. Something the main game really should have done. And no, the magic doesn't hurt your allies either. Going through, one of the big things is the actual remodeling process. You may notice there's like a bar under the strength counter in the bottom right. And there's also a bar under the level counter where it says level 25 out of 30. Basically, certain weapons, if you fill the bars before you reach max level, they'll actually evolve when they reach max level, and then you can add more levels and add more stats to them. Let me just see if I can find a quick one. So now you can see when I have 30 strength, that bar is lit up at the bottom. So when I push this weapon all the way to level 30, what'll actually happen is it'll be completely remodeled. This can give it brand new passive and active properties, and it also raises its maximum level, in this case to 45. It gave me the skill Charge Strike, Savage Swipe, and changed it into a Warblade. This makes all my charge attacks into critical strikes, so it's really good to try and evolve these weapons properly as you go through, and to pick weapons that have evolutions that benefit you the most. It's still going to take a lot of trial and error, but it's quite intuitive, it's quite easy to understand, and it's pretty fun for customizing. Whether you want to do a physical build, a magical build, a tankier build, you have all these kinds of options, and you can always farm items to give yourself more options as well. You have complete customization, and it's, again, something the main game really could have used. So I'm going to have to do a whole video on that on top of the super weapons and whatnot that you can get, so we'll leave that be for now. Iris over here runs a little shop where you can buy new attire for your character. You may notice that this character right here, who by the way I never explained is actually a custom-made avatar. There is a character creator, which we'll go over in a bit. He's dressed he's a little ragged. He could maybe use a bath or something. But if I wanted new clothes, I don't want to talk to you. Stop it.
Good to see you.
Should have talked to her before I started this. At her, and as well as other vendors around the world, you can purchase things like new emotes, new things, new quick chats for your party members. You can also grab hairstyles, tattoos for your arms, your face, full body tattoos, new attire for you to wear and customize your character, and they'll be adding more of these in future updates as well. Now, like I said, you could use a bath, you can actually walk over to the tent over here and clean off your face and your clothes and everything. So I like my character to look a little rugged, but for the sake of showing you the difference, there you go. So you're probably wondering how I ended up with this Keanu Reeves looking guy, John Wick 3 right here. So this character right here will allow you to change your character or change your current character's appearance at any given time. You can have up to 8 different avatars, each with their own levels and birthplaces and whatever progression system you end up sending them through. You can also, like I said, edit your current character whenever you want. So if you unlock new features, you can add those features to him after he or she has already been made. Keep in mind, you cannot change the gender of a character once the gender is made, however. So the first few features are pretty basic. You can see you have 2 male ancestors, and you can mix your face up to be more like one or the other, or in my case, be right between the two. You have different hairstyles. These are just a few hairstyles. There are a ton of them I haven't unlocked, so these are not limited to these ones, but you do have all of these options. Features, of course, you have beards, you have eyebrows, you have tattoos. Again, I haven't unlocked all of them. I've barely purchased any because I haven't messed with the character creator all that much, but feel free to customize it to your liking. You have different voices, you have height, torso, you do have a butt slider. Of course, I knew people would ask that. You have what you're actually wearing. You can wear something more silly like a Kenny t-shirt, or you know what, why even wear the t-shirt when I can just be the man himself? Clearly, I'm much better off like this. And at that point, nothing else matters, the accessory, your facial structure, because you're wearing a full bodysuit. And I don't think he's gonna stop dancing ever. You can change the color of the different parts of your body, your facial sorry, that's the most frightening thing I've ever seen. Your facial structure, your upper lip, your eye gaps, your brow gaps, the kind of customization you'd expect in a more open world RPG, as opposed to the way that this multiplayer works, which we'll get into in a little bit. You have full customization of all these different aspects, and you can make some fantastic looking characters. So I'm going to save this avatar. You can also rename the avatar if you want. You don't have to keep the same name the whole time. I'm going to stay as Haps. Oh, I think it's going to reload the zone? Does it? Or just do a quick load for this. There you go. We got Kenny the Crow right here. So over here we have Talcott. This guy's a little smarty. He basically gives you little tidbits of information about either the current lore in the world or about a character that you may or may not have interacted with in some time. And I hope that they keep adding more dialogue to him in the future. Over here is the power grid. Now, the power grid determines what missions you actively have available. Basically, as you complete missions, you gain something called kilowatts, or KW, and you can use those kilowatts to unlock more portions of the map. By unlocking portions of the map, you can unlock more fashion options, more weapons in the shop. You can unlock NPCs that may open up unique opportunities in the different sections of the world, including being able to assign a refugee leader to the different camps, which can give you passive benefits such as a new shop with new weapons, gil over time, more kilowatts over time, which are basically called meteor shards, by the way. I guess I should call them meteor shards, but I call them kilowatts because KW. You can also unlock different types of missions. You can find other sigils, which we'll get into with the character, with the actual combat customization in a bit. So it's very beneficial to do tons of missions, not only to farm materials for that weapon upgrade system earlier, but to find other parts of the map and continue to grow. We're assuming that in a future update, we'll be able to go further east and potentially to other areas as well, but I won't spoil too much for you guys. We really don't know what their update schedule or what they have planned for updates other than a few things are going to look like. Back over at the avatar creator, you actually may have seen a familiar faces option. They will be giving us the option to play as popular characters from the main scenario quest, including Noctis and his bros, but also including other characters such as Aranea and Ravis. So be on the lookout for that, but we don't know when that's coming, so, you know, I'll let you know as soon as I know. So, with the power grid, you unlock missions, then you come over here, and thank goodness Viv decided not to say anything this time. This is where you actually select your quests. Now, this game is very, unlike the main game, this game is very hub-based. Think of it like Monster Hunter, where you select a mission, you go out with other allies, whether they be AI or other actual players, you defeat a key opponent, you pick up some materials on the ground, you farm materials by breaking body parts, and then you come back and do it all over again. Repeating the same missions over and over again is something you'll find that is commonplace here, and you'll want to unlock as many missions as possible to give yourself as many options as possible when farming materials, leveling up alternate characters, or just trying to customize your character altogether. We'll come back and do a mission in a bit, because when I say customizing your character, a few things I haven't been through are your gearing options. So just like Noctis, you can have 4 weapons equipped at any time. As I said earlier, your weapons also have spells attached to them, so if you want to have a spell, you need to have a weapon that has the spell as part of it. For example, this katana has fire. If I were to equip this katana, I would passively gain all of its stats that it has in the bottom right, the 3 strength, the minus 10 HP, but if I have this as my currently equipped weapon, it will allow me to cast fire. Now, there are some caveats to that. While there are a bunch of passive effects here as well, which again, you also only benefit from the actual properties like Air Supremacy and Crusher with the weapon equipped. So but it's the stats under those that are always active. However, sometimes you just don't have access to spells because you picked a sigil that doesn't have it. Sigils are basically customizations akin to what you'd find in an MMO, with some of them leaning more towards a tank, some of them leaning more towards support for the party, some of them leaning towards hardcore DPS, and some of them towards other options as well. For example, the Rogue Sigil increases your MP by 20%, your strength by 30%, and your magic defense or spirit by 30% as well. But it also gives you the option to be invulnerable mid-air by doing air steps, which cost MP. You also gain more powerful mid-air attacks. However, if you were to go something like the Pious, you cast 2 offensive spells in a row by expending more MP, and your MP recovery rate goes up massively, as well as decreasing your HP and your strength while greatly increasing your magic. So basically, you can use these to specialize your character even further, but some of them make it so you don't have access to spells. For example, the one I'm currently on, the Tall, it removes my curative spell for an ability called Aura, which increases my attack for about 15 seconds. So you got to make sure you understand what the pros and cons are of each of these. Like, this is not a good magic. In fact, I can't even use magic, but any weapon that might scale with magic, that would also be a bad choice for this one. So, you can also see all your stats at the bottom left. And I guess we should go over these other menus. Items is just to keep an eye on what chat options you have, or, you know, what items you have overall. And for info, this contains an update menu. So if you want to know updates about what they're working on for the game, you can use that. There's also some character data, as well as documents you can use to learn more about the story and the background and what's been going on during the time with certain characters here. There are more options that can open up if you have donations available. The supply station, basically. Certain of the other, what are they called? The other outposts can send you materials and stuff, and you would pick them up here. So, what else can you do? So you can actually go to those other outposts if you want and buy items and unique things from there. There's a truck over here at the end, and basically if you use that truck, you can go to the other places. It's something that you're going to find yourself doing occasionally, but most of the time you just go there if you have to buy a new weapon or an upgrade material that sells in those areas. I will say this. Every time you take the truck over to one of the other areas, there are incredibly long load times. That is another drawback of Comrades, is that the load times are immensely long. When the PC version comes out, I'm sure that's going to be a lot better, because we're not going to be relying on the console. But for now, man, those load times can really get to you. If you had trouble with load times in the main game, you're going to be seeing a lot more of them here in Comrades. So, let's do a mission. That way I can show off the whole thing. Yeah, we're not that far into the video. So, I guess I'll do, I'm over-leveled for all of these, by the way. I guess I'll do Double Deadeye. This is a higher level mission against a bunch of behemoths as well as some other enemies. So, on these menus, you can look through the different locations and what missions they have available based on your progression on the power grid. And there's different types of missions. You have defense missions, where you have to defend a stationary point from being destroyed. Hunt, where you have to ultimately destroy the designated enemy. Urgent are same as hunts, except that they're mandatory for unlocking more portions of the power grid. So they're the same thing, but they're more mandatory for actual progression. Whereas these missions you can unlock and not do. You also have escort missions, which are like the defense missions, but it's a moving point that you need to defend. And if it reaches 0 HP, then it dies as well. There's also some special type of defense missions. One of them, you're in a tunnel. I believe it's this one. And the Spiricorns run down the tunnel, and if they reach the far end, they do immense damage to your point. There's one like that with Tonberries as well, where the Tonberries and a bunch of bombs start reaching the endpoint, and if they do a ton of damage to it. So it's almost like trying to stop enemies from getting past you, more so than just defending a point. And it's a little bit more fast-paced. So like I said, let's do Double Deadeye, because I actually need that mission for stuff. So once you select the mission, you can choose Quick Play, Custom, or Recruit AI. That's if you either don't have PlayStation Plus, or you don't want to play with other real people. You can always recruit AI. They're not nearly as effective as real people, but especially for the earlier missions, until you get kind of strong yourself, they'll at least get the job done. Custom allows you to set up a custom game where you can invite, well, not even invite, where you can set up basically friends, or, you know, basically say, hey, I'm looking for other players right here. And you can also choose to restrict it by region, or you can open it up to other regions on the same platform. But one thing I will say, this custom thing is nice, but there are a lot of things missing from it. For one, you can't directly invite friends to a match. You need to tell your friend, hey, my password is 1234. And then your friend has to join within 60 seconds, or actually within 55 seconds of you making the room. Otherwise, the room disappears and they can't join. If you even have a single person in, let's say you have 3 friends, 2 of them join, but one of them's taking a while to load the list, and then the mission starts, you don't have the option to wait for that 4th person. You have to go in as soon as you have people, and it'll just use AI. I would like to see a few things with this. One, I'd like to see you be able to invite friends, make a PlayStation party, do something to make the party before going into the mission. That way you don't have to get through this kind of clanky system. Another thing is you don't have the option to immediately replay a mission, which would save you a lot of load screens. It'd be nice that after you complete the mission, it can ask everyone to vote, would you like to repeat this mission? And if, 3 people say yes and 1 says no, it could always let the 1 person go and bring an AI in. Or if you have all 4, it could go yes. Or if all 4 of you say no, it sends you all back to town. It'd be nice to have options like that, and I think that's another downside that they should probably work on before the PC release. Quick play will just throw you in with random other players. If you don't get enough players, it'll fill any empty slots with AI. We're going to do a quick play. I've actually had relatively high success with quick play. I even beat the game's optional super boss with quick play, although it did take me like 7 or 8 tries. While you're waiting for the mission to fill up, which mine's already full, I can already tell just by the way the UI is looking, there's actually something called a Practar that normally spawns here, but it's loading me into the mission, so you don't get to see it. It's a practice Cactar. It's a training dummy for you to see how much damage you're doing before you go into the mission. So, I heard it spawn. That was the sound that the Practar makes. So it's really neat, and it's also fun to beat the thing up. You don't get anything if you actually ever kill the thing. It just, you start doing 0 damage when it has no health left. So while you're in those load screens, it'll let you know what mission you're on, the name of all your party members, what their current sigils are, and what their stats are. So you can use this to kind of get a feeling for what your other friends or people are playing with. As you can see, I'm the one at the very bottom with the 1200 plus attack power, the spirit. You can see their levels, their MP, everything. So you can start to try and glean a strategy while waiting in these load screens, or at least how you want to communicate to your party what the strategy should be. But this is the first of 3 load screens we're going to get before we actually get back to Leshtalem. So, you guys having a good time watching the video? You guys having a good time? You, checked this out yet? Finished it yet? Yeah, I finished it. I got 100% dark resist. That's cool. Got an item from Tomberry. It's pretty nice. It's pretty nice. It's also night, so it's nice, and it's night. Yeah. Anyway, once you're here, now you're in your camp. Now, the first thing I recommend you do in the camp is look around in here. There are 4 food items, 1 for each player. Food items at the end of a mission can be used to make food, which can give you buffs for the next mission you do. However, the other function for food is that if you are completely KO'd, you have 0 HP. The only way you'll be able to continue the mission is if you actually have food on you, and we'll get into what that guy just did in a second. So if you completely die and you don't have any food, you get sent back to Leshtalem. Like, your teammates can't resurrect you, they can't finish the mission for you. You're basically considered dead weight, get out of here, son. So it's very important to pick up that food just for the sake of making sure that if you do go down in a mission, you can take care of yourself. I do recommend picking up better foods as you go throughout the mission itself. So those things you're seeing the guide view in the bottom right, those are emotes, and you can use those to communicate or just have fun. Actually, I want to block one of those because there's something I can show you. So in combat, you're very much like Noctis. I have 4 weapons. I can switch between them at any point. I have different combos, whether they be combos activated from switching weapons or from just the weapon type that I have. But one of the big things you can do, it doesn't work on these guys. I guess they're not considered boss mobs. Is you can see above the 4 choices, I have Aura and Offensive Spell. Now, L2 plus Triangle is normally a curative spell. However, if you are my class, you have Aura instead, which is when I said that your heal would be replaced by an ability. Offensive Spell, on the other hand, is whatever, if I don't have any magic equipped, it's just like a little puff of air. However, if I have like Fire or Blizzard equipped, then it would replace the offensive spell option with whatever I have. So we killed those 2 behemoths. Now we got to kill the next wave of enemies. You can also see other foods lying around that I may want to pick up if I want to get better food at the end of the mission. We all just got confused, which means our controls are reversed and our weapons change randomly. Not a good time considering that the actual boss is about to be here, but we got a few seconds. So I will say this, there have been some bugs regarding the way the game operates. Sometimes bosses or enemies don't spawn, or they don't spawn quickly. Likely to be network errors, but either way, they are quite inconvenient when they do happen. Sometimes there's network issues where, you know, you're trying to load into a mission, you get stuck, and then you can't do anything. This is a warp strike right here, so basically this is like an infinite warp strike combo, where as long as your team keeps warp striking to the opponent, you can keep knocking them down a lot easier, you can break body parts a lot easier, and you can do a ton more damage. You get multipliers on your warp strikes here, and you can see that as long as we get the warp strike, that it'll be okay. But I'm trying to break this guy's horns, because I need his incisors. Yeah, there we go. I also need his tears, which can also come from his face. An important thing in this is breaking body parts to earn loot. By breaking different body parts, you can earn different loot from the different enemies. So learning which body parts to break to get certain items can be really important for getting upgrades or being able to buy new weapons and stuff like that. So pretty short mission. I'm really overpowered for this mission, so it went really fast. The rest of my team did really well also. And upon defeating all the enemies and making sure that we successfully complete the objective, it'll let us return to camp, give us 10 seconds to look around, maybe pick up a different food. I guess I'll pick up this potato as opposed to the mystery meat tin. And sometimes there are random occurrences, cactars that appear that can give you different crafting materials, magic pots which you can trade your ingredients and get meteor shards, or the kilowatts that I mentioned earlier. And it's pretty basic. It's a lot like Monster Hunter meets Final Fantasy 15, though with a little bit less of the exploration aspects. Kind of, actually even closer to Dauntless. You can see how much damage I did. I did quite a bit of damage on that mission right there. So, once you actually complete the mission, you get whatever body parts, whatever loot. Everybody gets loot from all the enemies, so it's completely fair. You don't have to worry about one person getting it and the other person not. An NPC, not always this one, but sometimes different NPCs show up and cook you a meal. If you get a special NPC that's not Monica, they generally have foods that they always make. Monica, in this case, made Hunter's Crazy Kebab. She brought some of her own ingredients, she took some of our ingredients, attack plus 20, item drop rate plus 20%. That buff will last for the next mission I complete. So if I don't complete the next mission, I fail it, I'll have the food buff until I complete another mission and get a different food buff. So if you get somebody else like Sid or Cindy that makes you food, they make you different kinds of foods that have very unique buffs. Sometimes they give you discounts on the store. Sometimes they make your enhancements on your weapons when you go to feed parts to it more powerful. And yeah, there's a bunch of different stuff there. And then this is the final loading screen before you go back to Leshtalem. Here's where I would have liked the option, hey, would you like to go back and do that mission again? Yes, please. As opposed to loading into Leshtalem, selecting the quest again, making a custom match again, telling people the password again. It gets a little tedious. It feels like something that wasn't thought all the way through, or maybe with the Luminous engine wasn't as easy to do. I don't know what the reason is for the way it's designed, but I know that it is slightly inconvenient and one of the drawbacks that can get quite tiresome, especially when farming the same mission over and over again. But that pretty much covers the basics. That's not everything I wanted to say in this video, but, you know, I like talking a lot, so I figured I gotta cut it off somewhere. I'm going to be uploading some guides about where some of the rare weapons are. However, because of New Game Plus, because I did this by accident, I kind of need to finish unlocking the rest of the power grid again. So I'm going to get hard to work at that, and I'm probably going to do a separate thoughts video. You got to hear some of my thoughts here, but I would like to go into more detail about that and things like the weapon upgrade system in a separate video altogether. One last thing, I mentioned those emotes. There are tons of different ones. I don't have all of them, but basically you can use them for communication, say thanks, or I'll keep you healed, or all together now to group up for buffs. But there's also things like Chocobo stamps. Some of you may have seen the video from when I played the beta, but there's like Chocobo stuff. This is my favorite one right here. That's the angry Chocobo. It looks so stupid. And then you have Kenny Crow. I mean, the Kenny Crow ones are really good, but this is the scariest thing you've ever seen in your life. The angry Kenny Crow is the most frightening thing you've ever seen. So yeah, I mean, that's the basics. I'll be covering more of this, especially as it gets more updates. Be on the lookout for boss guides or how to unlock certain things in the game itself. Thank you again for watching this video. Be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share, and stay tuned for more Final Fantasy 15 Comrades. I'll see you guys in the next one, and until then, Kenny Crow says, take care, y'all. Sorry.